$1.1 billion. Put that in context for us. Is that every public employee union in the state, or was that strictly FOP?
No, that's a compilation of education, employees, state workers, police, fire, AFSCME workers, other city workers across this state. The numbers come from all of these sectors of public employment, and I'm here to tell you that the number is bigger than 1.1 billion. We just don't keep good records amongst ourselves, and it takes time to go through all these contracts to find out what those numbers are.
Now, if you gave up, you said this was from 08?
Yes, sir.
So if you gave up, some city you gave up $1 million in 08, and then everything else stayed the same in 09 and 10 and 11, are you counting that as 1 million plus another 1 million the next year and the same 1 million the third year?
You know, I didn't compile the study to see how they counted the numbers. What I did do was help them gather numbers from various FOP locals and other police unions across the state, and Mr. Brown compiled the study, and I don't know your answer. That's a question for Mr. Brown.
Jay, do you know, this may be the same thing, but do you know how give back is defined? I mean, for example, if a union takes a wage freeze, are you counting the raise they would have otherwise gotten as a give back? No,
not the way we compiled our numbers. What we asked our people to give us numbers about were when we, in the middle of a current contract, where we got back together and said we're going to give these items back that are entitled to the employees because of the current contract. Not things that we lost at a negotiating table during a regular negotiation. If my employer wanted a 1 and we wanted a 2, I didn't count that 1%. What I did count is if we were entitled to a 1 because of our contract provided for that, and we decided to forego that raise because of the economic condition, that's what we're counting as a concession.
Only givebacks while the contract was in effect.
That's how the FOP counted them. That's correct.
And that's over a 3-year period, 8, 9, and 10?
Yes.
So 1.1 billion sounds like a lot, but that's like, what, 350 million a year? Spread out over the whole state?
Yes.
And the public employee payroll is something like $29 billion a year.
Well, that's right. Public service costs a lot of money. We recognize that. But the services we provide are extremely valuable. The majority of these cuts, and I'm told, come through education. I can't speak directly to those education numbers. $350 million in one fell swoop at the state government. But $100,000 in the city of Marion budget is a significant amount of money. Where in Columbus or the state government, not a significant amount of money. So you have to keep all those things in mind, that these concessions are significant, otherwise employers wouldn't have asked for them.
Have you touched on this very briefly about Senate Bill 5 and its impact on these concessions. Have you looked at the contracts that were most recently approved or negotiated, and do you believe Senate Bill 5 is having any impact on those talks now?
Well, I don't believe that Senate Bill 5 is having an impact. What I do believe is having an impact is the state of the economy. And we see that just the same as our employers see that. And 65% of contracts in the last year maintained a wage freeze or instituted a wage freeze. I don't believe that happened because of Senate Bill 5. I believe that happened because public employees are smart people and they recognize that the economy is what the economy is. So, and that's why we've come to this conclusion to take wage freezes in contracts, because, you know, we can read and we can see what's outside.
And you believe that those concessions would have happened regardless of whether the debate was going on now over Senate Bill 5?
Absolutely, because we've proven it. The state workers took a $350 million concession package under the Strickland administration, well before anyone thought about Senate Bill 5. So it is you know, for our opponents to say that these concessions are Senate Bill 5 driven is a fallacy.
Mark and Jay, you guys touched on this a little bit last week, but the idea that if Senate Bill 5 were to become law and some of these concessions or you know, savings for the governments were enacted, the question becomes, would the bargaining units punish the elected officials politically at the ballot box? You know what the other side says, that most of our city council members are beholden to these votes and would cast their vote on these contracts with that in mind. What do you say to that?
Well, Joe, I have a great example, and I know it well because it's from my city. The Marion Police Department, my chief says we've given $400,000 in concessions. Tough economic times. I myself took a $7,000 concession in this year alone. My FOP Lodge just endorsed our mayor, the same mayor that we negotiated these concessions with, because we appreciate the process and we understand what the times are. The FOP endorsed Ted Strickland after those $350 million cuts. So it's a fact that we're not out punishing people who've we've engaged with in these concession talks. And the small city of Marion is the perfect example. I believe Mayor Coleman has talked about how much money his city has saved through concessions. Mayor Coleman's received endorsements from Columbus public employees. And he opposes Senate Bill 5. I think lots of mayors across the state have said, we oppose Senate Bill 5 because it's big government, Columbus politicians telling us what we have to do on the local level. And they don't need those tools. What they do need are the local government funds restored, which were so dramatically cut. That's really causing these local governments problems, not employee costs.
Joe, and I'll just comment. Jay talked about the process. Currently, the majority of fire unions, fire locals that have collective bargaining agreements, it's the local members sitting across the table against the city's attorneys. Okay? So the process works because it allows you to have some discussion, it allows you to present evidence, and it allows reasonable people to come to reasonable solutions. I think moving forward, without that process, I think it's inevitable that our members, and probably Jay members who may not be politically active, that you've seen turn politically active during this Senate Bill 5, I think that, what's their recourse? And I think the easiest recourse would be political activity. Now, does Senate Bill 5 do what its proponents say it does when it says we need to put these back in the hands of the elected officials and then turn right around and so how do you get to an elected official? Through political activity. So I think it sets up potentially for a recipe where you have a professional process, where you have rules, where you have rules of engagement, if you will. And now it will be kind of, who knows where it's going to go? Will it be a political free-for-all? I think that's for us to find out. And because that's going to be the only relief valve, if you will, for public employees now to ensure that they have a voice at the table, and that's by electing people that, in our instance, as we said to Mr. Birding, and he did do this, he wanted to ensure that we had firefighter safety. Now, it may be getting a little too expensive to do that, and then that's where the rubber meets the road on those issues.
But playing on the scenario that you just discussed, wouldn't an elected official have to think twice about imposing what you would say would be unfair, an unfair contract?
Well, I'll say this, and as I said in the editorial board, elected officials may or may not be equipped to discuss public safety issues related to firefighting necessarily. They do, though, have the final and ultimate decision. And this notion that fire chiefs are going to be able to have a determining factor on what's said or done in the public safety arena is it's just not reality. Fire chiefs are given a budget and they say, here you go, work within the budget. And if they complain, if they're not covered by civil service, then they might be looking for another job. And I say that not to be derogatory to elected officials. And I'll send you a clip of a Xenia council meeting discussing bulletproof vests and firefighters turnout gear. Again, as I stated before, as an insurance salesman, as a pharmacist or what have you, from the majority of communities across Ohio, making decisions about technical public safety issues, you can watch the video for yourself, and that will display potentially what could happen in Ohio. That maybe the decisions are made by dollars and cents, and maybe not much safety sense.
Also, I want to expand upon that just for 1 second as well. Our opponents in this campaign tell us, well, we should trust public officials. They'd never send you out into harm's way with bad equipment. And in the same breath, they say public officials can't be trusted to negotiate your contract. Public officials can't be trusted to sit down and discuss wages and benefits and terms and conditions with employment. We have to give them rules that says you can only do this and you can only do that and you can only do that. And then we say, oh, but we can't, of course a public official will give you the tools that you need to do your job safely. What public official would send you out without the proper bullet-resistant vest? Our opponents try to play that public official game both ways. And nobody has called them on it. If we can trust them to make sure that we have good equipment, why can't we trust these people who are elected locally to sit down and negotiate contracts and decide what's best for their employees, whether it be at the state level, the city level, the county level, township level, or whatever? This law says that we're smarter in Columbus than you, Mr. Mayor. We're smarter in Columbus than you, Mr. County Commissioner. And we're here to say that this is how much sick time your employees get. We're here to say this is how much vacation time they get. We're here to say that this is what kind of pay they're going to get. When in the next breath they say, but no public official would send you out there without an adequate bullet-resistant vest. Why would they do that? Matter of fact, I believe it was even in the dispatch editorial. They would certainly send you out, take care of you with your safety equipment, but we can't trust you with the money. That's a ridiculous argument.